Beware the Fish by Korman. Hot gazoobies. We're doomed, muttered Boots mournfully as he, Bruno, and Elmer walked across the campus toward the faculty building. Classes had been canceled for the day because of the state of the campus, but Mr. Sturgeon had sent for the three boys right after lunch. I don't care, said Bruno. McDonald Hall is gone, but at least we sent it out in a blaze of glory. He reached down and picked up a partially burned salmon poster. Here, Elmer. Thank you, said Elmer feebly, almost paralyzed with fear. Do you think we'll be expelled? You can't be expelled from a school that doesn't exist, observed Bruno gloomily. We'll just go before everybody else, that's all. Still, sighed Boots, my folks will kill me. If I had to be expelled, said Bruno, this is the way I'd want it to happen. Defending the hall, whether the fish appreciates it or not. They entered the building and marched like martyrs into the headmaster's office. Mr. Sturgeon himself ushered them inside and seated them, to their surprise, in the visitors' chairs rather than on the hard bench. They waited. Mr. Sturgeon indicated a stack of newspapers on his desk. You boys made quite an impression last night. He began to read headlines. Loyal students fight to save financially troubled school. Save our school. Cry McDonald Hall boys. Fight to save school ends in brilliant explosion. Police assist battle to keep school solvent. The list is endless. You were on network and local television last night and this morning, and on several radio stations. 2 major magazines want to do articles on McDonald Hall, and the Science Gazette would like to interview you, Grimsdale. Offhand, I would say your efforts to get publicity were not entirely unsuccessful. The three boys stared in silence. Listen to this editorial from the Toronto Star, the headmaster went on. What kind of school spirit is it that inspired the boys of McDonald Hall to try just about anything to save their school from bankruptcy? Only a rare institution and staff could bring out such loyalty and devotion. That is why today we take our hats off to the students of McDonald Hall for their valiant and untiring efforts to keep their school operating. The rest goes on to explain in detail the events of last night, with which I am sure you are very familiar. Yes, sir, said Bruno meekly. I have some rather good news for all of us, Mr. Sturgeon went on. He permitted himself a small smile. This morning alone, we have had hundreds of telephone inquiries from parents all over the country. Already over 40 new boys have been signed up for next year. We expect many more. Hot gazoobies! Blurted Bruno, jumping to his feet. He sat down quickly. That's very nice. Mr. Sturgeon beamed. Very nice indeed, he agreed. We are planning to reopen Dormitory 3, and perhaps even build a Dormitory 4. I would like to congratulate you for your efforts. I'm not going to be expelled then, sir? Asked Elmer hopefully. Hardly, said Mr. Sturgeon. I would venture a guess that you may even become famous. The Science Gazette is extremely interested in your video system and how you consistently overpowered the Chut transmitter. Elmer blushed. I wasn't supposed to do that. It wasn't supposed to do that. And while we're on the subject, boys, said the headmaster, there are a few things I would really like clarification on. He cleared his throat carefully. Recently I have received a series of complaints and accusations from Miss Scrimmage concerning various alleged activities. For instance, does anyone know if Miss Scrimmage was actually, as she phrased it, beaten up? That would have to be when Sidney Rampolsky fell on her, offered Bruno thoughtfully. Of course it was an accident, sir, added Bruno quickly. Mr. Sturgeon nodded slowly. With him it always is, and I suppose you have an explanation for a phantom shoe that Miss Scrimmage found after an alleged raid? Boots hung his head. Yes, sir, that was mine. I see, said the headmaster. What about Miss Scrimmage's story of a member of the McDonald Hall staff running around her school in his underclothes? Oh, that was just Coach Flynn, sir, said Bruno. But it was his gym shorts, not his underwear. He doesn't know anything about it, though. He was drunk at the time. I beg your pardon? Snapped Mr. Sturgeon stiffly. You see, explained Boots, we put Elmer's cold cure in his muscle aid, and he drank it, and it made him, well, intoxicated, supplied Elmer. My cold remedy reacts badly to citric acid in those high-energy drinks. So when the coach drank it, added Bruno, he got sort of drunk and went over to scrimmages and carried on, but it wasn't his fault. He didn't even know about it. Perhaps it's just as well, said Mr. Sturgeon with a queer smile. Is there anything else you'd like to know about, sir? Asked Bruno. Just one more thing comes to mind, said the headmaster. Would there be anything in Grimsdale's equipment that Miss Scrimmage might misconstrue as a red and green flying bomb? Elmer choked and had to be pounded heartily on the back by his two roommates. It was the HM flying remote control device, sir, stammered Bruno. Ah, yes, said Mr. Sturgeon. That would be the flying fish, the one that flew away. Yes, sir. That will be all, said Mr. Sturgeon. You are dismissed. However, I suggest the next time you embark on a crusade such as this, you inform me and obtain permission for your activities. Good day. The entire population of MacDonald Hall was assembled on the front lawn by the highway. Okay, shouted Bruno. The girls have to hear us, so be sure to yell loud, all together now. 1, 2, 3. A great chant rose from their throats. MacDonald Hall is saved! MacDonald Hall is saved! A stream of girls erupted from Miss Scrimmage's finishing school for young ladies, led by Kathy Burton and chased by their teachers. They stampeded across the lawn, lined up across the road from the boys, and joined in the chant. MacDonald Hall is saved! MacDonald Hall is saved! Saturday dawned warm and sunny, and MacDonald Hall's boys were all sleeping in. Friday night there had been a big victory party that had lasted far into the night, and the students were exhausted from their celebrating. A large poster bearing the message, "We saved MacDonald Hall," was draped across Bruno Walton's head as the three inhabitants of room 201 began to stir. It's the middle of the night, yawned Bruno. No, said Boots. Actually, there's a poster covering your face. Oh, moaned Elmer. I have a headache. That was a decent party, said Bruno, peeling the poster off and dropping it onto the floor. Too bad the girls couldn't be there. That Miss Scrimmage sure carries a grudge. Just because the police confiscated her shotgun, she's mad at us. Boots eased himself out of bed and walked over to the window for a breath of air. He looked and stared outside. Bruno, I think you'd better see this. See what? Asked Bruno groggily. Come and see, Boots insisted. Bruno staggered over to the window, looked out and let out a bellow of rage. There, prominent on Miss Scrimmage's front lawn, gleamed the world's largest tin can pyramid, more than 16 feet tall. Parked in front of the wrought iron gates of the school was the CHUT-TV mobile unit. Directly behind it, a large bright blue van bearing the words Rankin Book of World Records. My pyramid! Shrieked Bruno in hysterics. She stole my pyramid! I'll kill her! Before Boots could stop him, he had scrambled out the window and was running across the campus in his pajamas. Boots leaped out and ran barefoot across the grass in hot pursuit. Elmer, confused and astonished, followed. Bruno ran to the edge of the highway, but was prevented from crossing by Boots and Elmer, who flanked him, each holding onto an arm for dear life. Kathy! Kathy, that's my pyramid! Mine! You'll pay for this! Kathy waved in a friendly manner, but said nothing. I'll call the police! Bruno threatened darkly. I'll call the army! I'll call Mr. Sturgeon! Boots and Elmer began hauling him back toward dormitory 2. I'll have your head for this, shouted Bruno, his heels dragging. I'll file a complaint. I'll write my member of parliament, the prime minister, the queen. Kathy watched as Boots and Elmer hauled him out of sight until his voice was just a faint echo. He seems upset about something, she commented mildly. And that's the end of that chapter.